A brazen scam is shaking public trust. It's all linked to a South Florida news outlet operating with a staff created almost entirely by artificial intelligence. The South Florida Standard featured fake reporters, even AI-generated headshots, and a fictional editor-in-chief. The stories were lifted from real news outlets. They were run through AI and republished as original. Investigators traced the site to a Philadelphia company whose founder pleaded guilty to investor fraud. 2 more ghost news sites were also uncovered in Charleston and San Francisco. The Florida Trib broke this story with NPR member station KCRW during its Question Everything podcast. Katie, I'd like to start with you. This kind of deception hits at the heart of the public trust. And how does something like this land in the media landscape that's already embattled?
The only good thing about this story is that the ploy to pass off fake news as real news didn't really work. It was designed to really bury their reputations of people involved, right? And when you learn more about the person who's at the center of this kind of AI ring, you start to see a lot of the intention is to do reputational repair, right, online. So I think the only thing I read that I thought was good news was that it didn't work. The rest of it's really bad. And you hit on some really key words that are very troubling. Public trust. This is not how journalism foundations are made. This is not ethical. This is not, I think part of the plan was to sell off the brand based on this kind of bedrock of lies. I don't know how you do that.
And really to increase the search engine optimization of their clients so that the information that would come up would be in a more positive light. Ray, I saw you shaking your head when I was reading this story. What goes through your mind?
I think about AI all the time. I think journalists should be aware of AI, perhaps experiment with it. I don't think they should write stories with it. But at the end of the day, as Katie pointed out, I think the only outlets that should be worried about AI replacing anything are the ones that do regurgitate press releases, right? They skip tough questions, they skip critical thinking, they trade truth for access, right? Because you can't teach things like curiosity or conviction, and AI will never be able to do that. Now, that said, human journalists, human-powered news orgs have to do more. I know it's hard for journalists. We have to work harder to meet people, create trust, be on shows like this. I mean, we're real flesh and blood people right here, and teach people the difference between, I'm so glad you said slop, because that allows me to say slop, AI slop, and the real thing.
And this is not, limited to the English language. I mean, even Spanish language media is also being targeted by AI and some of these fake stories. Tom, how do you weigh in on this?
Well, let me tell you, we have heard of announcers in Spanish that can do different, accents, and we could have access to them, and we could put them on the air, and they could get the weather, and they could get the traffic and everything, which is amazing. But at the same time, they don't have the human touch. They don't have the heart of our community. So we're totally against that. We're not considering that one bit. On the other side, we use AI sometimes to review some of the commercials that we do. Right. And that has been helpful. But in general, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, it is. It is. For the audience, why should they care? I mean, this is something that they know the journalist would be very weary of, because it affects jobs, it affects the relationship that we have with the audience. But for the general audience, explain to them why should they care about this?
They think that they're good at telling what's real and what's not, and I have to say, you're not. These websites were sophisticated. They had authors with pictures, authors with bios, they had an about page, they had a transparency page. They had all of the signals of something that should be taken as trustworthy, but it was not. And I think people don't understand how much effort they have to put forth to decipher what's real and what's not, because there are not enough safeguards to do that for them. You have to go and background, as these reporters did, every person on the page, do pretty significant background checks to figure out, oh, they had these issues in the past, and then do back-end code work to figure out what it had in common with other sites. So it's too much to expect, but that's where we are.
So before we go on to the next segment, I do want to ask you, we've talked about the fact that AI, and these fake newsrooms, right? This is not illegal, But there have been steps that have been taken to make sure that AI is not used in political campaigns. Can you talk to us about that?
It seems like AI is being used in a lot of political campaigns. We just fact-checked a video of Florida gubernatorial candidate Byron Donalds last week, where he was giving an interview recently about something else, I think talking about his upbringing, his family, and someone just decided to make it look like he was talking about insider trading and how he was really cool with it because he wants to get rich. That did not happen. I need to say that in the same breath. Yeah. We rated that fact-check pants on fire. But these videos, it wasn't even an official campaign video. It's just more slop that's put on social media to erode trust in individuals and candidates, and it's really confusing and convincing.
You're coming up on a very busy season, political season for the Florida primaries. How do you check the facts in real time? When you're having, press conferences, you're having debates happen, how do you do that?
Well, we have to prioritize. We have a staff of about 20 people at PolitiFact, but one fact-checking reporter who's tasked with Florida. So she's going to be really busy, but she has a big team behind her. But we fact-check the candidates primarily for the governor's race and U.S. Senate along the way, so that when they have their debates, we can do live fact-checking in real time. We, so as candidates are making attacks at each other on the stage, we're really familiar with their talking points before we get to that point, so we can tell people quickly, that's half true, that's false, that's misleading, that's actually right.
Yeah.
We'll see how many of those we get.